This lecture will be on the candidates tournament, which is ongoing because Marler told me so. And this is in your favorite city, Khanty-Mansiysk, which is in Siberia, your favorite place. Whoever wins this tournament plays the World Championship in November against Magnus Carlsen, probably Anand again. And unfortunately, when things happen in Europe and Asia, we get to stay up all night and watch them. This was the only night, maybe in the tournament, where I actually slept and didn't watch the games live. So I'm actually sort of awake now. I've been doing a lot of chess work on no sleep because I want to watch the games live, and they start 4 in the morning our time, 3 in the afternoon in Khanty-Mansiysk. So there's 8 players, and before the tournament, nobody gave several of them a chance to win. Svidler, Anand, Mamedyarov, and Andreikin were considered just fillers to see who would actually win the tournament. Probably 90% of people thought it would be Aronian or Kramnik. And Yasser Seirawan, who also does a lot of lecturing here, thought that Topalov had some chance. Okay, and well, everybody still has a chance, I guess, except Andreikin and Karyakin. So these are the best players in the world. Some people are upset that Nakamura's not playing, especially people in the US, and some are upset that Caruana is not playing, and many people, I think, are upset Grishuk's not playing because the organizers had to give one wild card out. If the tournament was in this chess club, it would have been Nakamura, but it was in Russia, so they figured they'd give it to a Russian player. Makes sense. And people thought it would be Grishuk, but it was Svidler. Svidler's good too. Okay, so for some reason, Anand's playing well this tournament, and I haven't said that sentence in about 4 years, maybe longer. I don't know why Anand's playing well. I just know that he's playing well. Now, obviously, he's in first place. I'm not talking about that. You can be in first place and not play well. That's what I do for a living. Okay, first place and not playing well, I got all that. But Anand's actually playing well. In fact, the guy who likes to diss everybody, I hope you're watching this, the guy that I make fun of now, Yermolinsky. Yermolinsky likes to say everybody's the worst player ever. He said Anand's made no mistakes this term. He said that today. So that's high praise from Yermolinsky, okay, that he said Anand's playing great. And Anand's playing great. What are you going to do? Will he continue to play great? Spencer does not think so, okay, because Anand has played bad for like 2 years in a row. So he's 44, young, very, very young. Oh yeah, 3 months younger than me. Okay, now in round 1, Aronian lost to Anand, and Aronian has the MO of losing in round 1. That's how he rolls. Okay, and actually Topalov used to do that, then Topalov would win the last 5 games. And Aronian lost the first round here in the Sinkfield Cup to Nakamura. And dead drawn position, decided to blunder. Okay, thought this was a good time to blunder. Okay, so Anand, who hasn't won a rated game in about 6 years, no, I'm half kidding. 3 years, I was half kidding. He played white, and they played one of these Rui Lopez's that Aronian likes to play. Now, Aronian likes to play the Marshall Gambit, and that's where you sacrifice a pawn and then you draw. So he likes to do that. And maybe in the last 10 years, he's lost 1 Marshall Gambit. Most super GMs believe the Marshall Gambit is fine. Black is equal. So they'll play what are called anti-Marshall Gambits so that doesn't happen. Okay, which is what happens here. And now Black is going to play d5 next move, which is the Marshall Gambit. And Anand played h3. Normally, White plays c3, and then d5 is the Marshall Gambit. And in many variations, Aronian, who's the world's leading authority, I would say, unless Spencer disagrees, knows 25 or 30 moves of theory, and then agrees to a draw. Justin?
What's wrong with a4?
There's nothing wrong with a4. a4 is a very good move. There's many moves White can play to avoid the Marshall Gambit, and I would say probably 75% of super GMs avoid the Marshall Gambit because they think it'll just be a forced draw based on the analysis that's been done. So Anand played h3, and Aronian still plays a gambit. He plays d5. He's like, I'm playing a gambit. I don't care what you do. Okay. Well, obviously, if white plays c3 to play d4, it's hard to play knight c3. You can't take your own pawn. So now that there's no pawn on c3, white's knight has c3 available, and white didn't lose a tempo playing c3. Because, so, well, Aronian does this a lot, plays these variations where you sacrifice a pawn. Anand doesn't take the pawn, but Aronian insists. So when you insist, instead Anand develops a piece, and he's like, all right, I'll take the pawn because you're not defending it. Okay. And black supposedly has good compensation because black has good pieces. White's rook is sort of stupid because we're going to attack it. And white's queenside pieces haven't moved yet. And, well, the bishop on b7 obviously is, pretty good bishop. Okay. So rook goes back to e1 so that black doesn't attack it. And rook to e8, which is, I find it a bit strange. Rook on f8 looks a little funny to me. Knight f3. And this is, I think, if I remember the game correctly, although it was 5 in the morning, so maybe I forgot it. This is where Aronian played his first strange move. Unless it was later in the game, then I apologize. No, it was later. Bishop d6, rook e7. Yeah, h6. Here I think black has pretty reasonable compensation for a pawn, but h6 doesn't seem like the right move. I mean, black is down a pawn. Yeah, and now Anand, unlike the previous several years, played really well. Okay, I haven't seen him play well in a long time. Now, there's a member of our club who I won't mention, Jacob, and Jacob said, and I don't know this is true, but it was true today and yesterday. He said it before that. He said not only is Anand playing well, Anand's playing fast like he used to. Because now Anand plays slow and bad. He must have got lessons from me. Okay, but he used to play instantly. Anand was the fastest player in the world. And when he was between the ages of 15 and 25, he would use 10, 20 minutes for a whole game, even in slow chess. And he would calculate lots of variations anyhow. Okay? And now he plays as slow as possible, and he trades all the pieces and offers a draw and loses. That's what he does now. But this tournament, he's decided to play fast and win. That's a better decision, I think, on his part. And he played knight e5, a really, really nice move. So he's giving back the pawn, but he gets rid of all of black's play, and he does the most important thing in any grandmaster's repertoire. What does the move knight e5 do that every grandmaster wants to do? I know Spencer knows. Anybody else? No? Schranz? Bishops. Grandmasters overvalue bishops. We love bishops. I didn't like bishops. Then I got this paper from FIDE that says I was a grandmaster, and I love bishops. It's like, wow, bishops are great. Okay, now if black wants to win his pawn back and not let this knight sit on e5, you can't let knight sit on e5. You have to take it and trade everything off. And white has an advantage because white has two bishops. Is it a winning advantage? Probably not. But, white has two bishops and black has nothing for the two bishops. Now, when you have two bishops, which you probably don't have except for Ken West, because it's a grandmaster thing, most of you should have got that. One of your bishops has no counterpart. This bishop on b3 is on a white square, as is the bishop on b7, also on a white square. The bishop on e3, see I can do, yeah, there's green, is on a dark square, so that means black is going to have trouble on the dark squares. White has a dark square bishop and black doesn't. Also, black's made some pawn moves over here. Okay, so white's going to try to attack those. Rook d1, threatening the knight. Aronian didn't see it and lost his knight. No, that didn't happen. Played knight f6, c4, and he's hoping that this trade will happen, and then black will have two isolated pawns. Is that what happened? No, ridiculous. So black played c6, and white was very insistent and played a4. White said, could you take one of those so you have two isolated pawns? The thing is, as you know, with bishops, you want to open position. So Anand wants to trade those pawns and get an open position for his rooks and for his bishops. And black also wants those pawns gone because this bishop is very suspicious, blocked by all these pawns. On the other hand, black doesn't want to have two isolated pawns. Now, why did Anand play c4 other than to trade? Well, black was going to put his knight on the really nice d5 square. That would be very risky. I wouldn't recommend that. So Aronian has a tough position here because white has two bishops for nothing. So white's just going to move his bishops around, and black's going to try to draw. So he eventually took, so his knight has the d5 square, but two isolated pawns, not good. Bishop c5. Did you think Anand was going to let Aronian take? No. Rook there. f3, the rook has to move. King f2. Bishop c8. Now, bishop c8's my kind of move. First of all, I like retreating. Second of all, that bishop's not good on b7. It's blocked by two pawns. Reminded me of the game Finegold-Roper, when Mario played bishop b7 behind that c6 pawn. Okay, I was reminded of it because I won. But okay, bishop c8, now the bishop's going to relocate to a better diagonal. Bishop f1, my favorite move in chess, which you all know, even all of you know on YouTube. Because the bishop is blocked, the rook can't move up, and black might take this bishop if white's not careful. After bishop f1, black's not going to take that bishop. And the bishop controls the whole diagonal, but it doesn't block either white rook. That's why I like to move bishop f1. It defends the king's side, it attacks the whole diagonal, and the white rooks aren't blocked. And you may have noticed there was an x-ray attack on this bishop. The rook might take the bishop later. Well, now the rook on c1 is defending the bishop. So Anand, he's pretty good Anand. Rook e6, defending this weak c6 pawn. Rook to d3. And the problem is, white can attack the a6 pawn and the c6 pawn, and I'm not sure what black's going to do. What's black going to attack? How's black going to get active counterplay? Well, he couldn't. Knight f4, that looks pretty active. Rook b3, the rook's coming to b6. Rook d8, this rook's coming to d2. You think Anand let that happen? So say no. No. Okay, so also I don't remember what he did, but I still know. One of the things super grandmasters do well is they figure out what their opponent wants to do, then they don't let them do it. Okay, a famous world champion, I'm sure he's your favorite, from the 1960s, was well known for this. Which world champion prevented all of your counterplay before you knew you had it? 60s. What? Who? Petrosyan, yes. Okay, Tigran. Fischer would have been 70s. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, Petrosyan was world champion in the 60s, and he stopped all counterplay. Unfortunately, he had too many draws. Too many. At least one is too many. Bishop e3, stopping rook d2. Now rook d2 is very risky. And attacking the knight. Knight to d5. Did white give up his bishop on e3? Doesn't want the two bishops anymore? No, two bishops. Bishop d2. And again, I don't know what black does here. Black waits to lose his pawns. He's going to wait. Knight f6. Now, knight f6 is a retreating move, so that would excite Ken West. Ken would say, my opponent's retreating, I'm going to go attack. Okay, and then he would say, oh, my bishop's attacked. Yeah, like he just said now. Because the knight on d5 was blocking the rook, and he moved it out of the way, so this retreat was actually an offensive move. And Anand took offense to that. Bishop a5, saving the bishop, attacking the rook. And black's queenside's a goner. Now, Aronian's pretty good, so he doesn't lose easily. Rook attacks the bishop. Knight d5 attacks the rook. Now, Anand played bishop takes e5. After the game, he said, I should have played rook takes c6. Although, not sure if computers agree with that. I think computers think he played the right move. Knight takes rook. The bishop on e5 is hanging. Bishop to d4. Could have played rook takes c6 here. And now there's a nice juicy pawn on a4 hanging right. Yummy. See the pawn black can take? But unfortunately, then your knight's a little iffy. You might lose your knight. Then you won't do well. On the other hand, if you lose this pawn for nothing, and then this pawn's attacked, you might lose too. So it looks like black's just going to lose. He did take the pawn. White took the pawn, attacks the bishop, and he attacks. So the bishop's defended, the knight is trapped, the knight is attacked. What did black do? Did not resign. Aronian's too good. He resigned later. How do we save our knight? Protect it. Good answer. Bishop d7. Unfortunately, that knight can't move to a lot of squares. 0 would be the right number of squares. Otherwise, you get captured. b3. What do we do? Well, Aronian's better than you. Okay, unless, hi Magnus. Otherwise, Aronian's better than you. Okay, if Magnus is watching, I apologize to Magnus. He probably is watching, right? Okay. And he plays tricky, tricky, tricky to save his knight. Okay, he's a tricky guy. He plays bishop b5. Now, if you want to get 2 pieces for a rook by taking the bishop, you're not going to get 2 pieces for a rook because this rook's attacking your bishop also. So you're going to take the, so you're going to lose. So he played rook to b4. And now the move you all would play, knight to b2. Because Aronian saw if bishop takes knight, rook d2 check wins the bishop back. On the other hand, that knight's not so good on b2. What's the only square the knight on b2 can go to that's safe? d1. That wasn't my answer, but that was better than my answer. Very good. Knight d3 is also possible, but your move was better. So Anand took and played king to e3 to go take the knight. Now bishop takes knight is a threat. Pretty good threat. Check. Pins the bishop. King c3. And now Aronian resigned because the only move is knight d1. And that's the end of your knight. I hate when that happens. So the 2 bishops won the game, but only after Anand traded bishops to trap that knight on the side of the board. Now that game shocked everybody, and that's why Spencer left. He's probably really angry because he thinks Anand has a 0% chance of winning. It's at least 0.1%, at least. And before the tournament, nobody thought Anand could win. And I was like, I talked to Anand's wife. He's like, no, he can't win. Terrible. Okay, so it's 14 rounds, and we've played 6. And the next round is not tonight because there's a rest day. So, and if you're watching at home, you're totally baffled because the tournament's over already.
6 minus 24, there's only 18.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so of the first 6 rounds, this is the only decisive game the black won. And Anand was black. Played sort of fast this game. And let's see, who knows the name of this opening? Dimitri.
Sorry?
What's the name of this opening? He's like, I don't know. Something.
Queen's Gambit.
Close enough. Now who wants to give the right answer?
Slav.
The Slav, right. Okay, so we got some Slav going on, and Mamedyarov plays queen c2. I've actually had this position with both colors, not at the same time. Well, maybe. Okay, and there's lots of things black can do, and I'm sure that Anand looked at this for his match. Very unlikely would happen because Carlsen's never played queen c2 in the Slav, but he might. So you look at everything. And Anand played bishop g4, which is sort of a new kind of move. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, everybody played bishop f5 here. But bishop g4 is becoming more popular. I don't know if Anand's had this position before, but I have to look at bishop g4 because I had somebody play it against me and I didn't know anything. So, okay, knight bd2. And Mamedyarov likes to play unusual stuff and get his opponent out of prep. That's hard to do with Anand because Anand's been prepping for months for his match. So Anand knows a lot of theory and everything. And their game was pretty boring. Nothing much happened, which is typical of this system. A lot of Slavs are boring. And trade some pieces and nothing happens. Okay. Man, it's a joke I make every lecture and I forgot it. Hang on there for a few hours. Blair Witch Project, that's the joke. Okay, I'm done. You know, nothing happens, nothing happens, nothing happens, it's over. That's the Blair Witch Project. Okay, so nothing happens, and pretty boring game. And King H8, well, he played King H8 with black in another game. He likes King H8. So Anand wants to move his F pawn either to F5 or F6, but he didn't do so in this position. Why, Ken West?
Because it would be illegal.
Because it would be illegal. And he didn't like the fact that these were on the same diagonal, which means this pawn's not moving. Occasionally, this bishop on H5 gets trapped. White plays G4 and F5, and you're like, ah, my bishop's trapped. So King H8, now this pawn can move, and this bishop can go back to F7 and attack White's pieces. E5, typical Mamedov, aggressive player. Rook E8 attacking the pawn, F4 defending the pawn, and F6. Now that white pawn's attacked a lot. Now a lot of you are looking at this position and wondering if this is a Connect 4 lecture. Incorrect. Okay, this is a chess lecture. So White has this beautiful pawn chain. White's playing very aggressively, and you all like White. Okay, except you know Anand won the game, so you're confused. Now, it's true that I like White, and I like that pawn structure, and I agree with everything I said, which is sort of normal. However, when you move all the pawns in front of your king, there's no pawns in front of your king, unless you're playing Bug House, and you put some pawns in front of your king. So for the next, however long the game lasts, which isn't long, White has no pawns in front of his king. His king is exposed. And when you push pawns in front of your king, and your opponent puts a rook on the 7th rank, your king's going to be on the back rank for the next 80 moves, and you'll get mated. So White has to be careful that his own king doesn't get exposed later in the game, which he was not careful about. So he traded. And again, sort of boring. Everything's equal, equal pawns. You know, both sides have 2 bishops and a knight. Both sides haven't moved their queen rook yet. Bishop F3, which I don't like because it gets rid of one of White's defenders in front of his king. But maybe he wanted that bishop gone because he was afraid this bishop was going to be a monster. Okay, but I don't like bishop F3. Rook E4, that's the aggressive Anand from 25 years ago. Where'd that guy go? Now, if black had played C5, White may not like that. Right, Ken? Yeah. So Rook E3, trade more pieces. Queen E8. And Queen E8, I think, is the best move of the game? Second best move? Tied for first? Yeah. So Queen E8 attacks the bishop, which everybody sees. And it also prepares to play Queen H5, where the queen's very active, Knight G4, checkmate. So Queen E8's a lot better than Queen E7, because we can now shift to the king side. Now, Mamedov is not my student. I'm not sure why. Maybe because he's 300 points higher rated than me. Maybe. Okay, but probably not. And if he was my student, I would be yelling at him, and he would say, I don't speak English. But still, he speaks English. Okay, actually, if you watch the live commentary and all this stuff, he doesn't speak English, but he does. He's just pretending he doesn't. Okay, I've heard him speak English. Andreykin is the same. Andreykin doesn't speak English unless he wants to. On the other hand, you can't stop Svidler from speaking English or anything. Svidler talks nonstop forever in any language. But Andreykin and Mamedov pretend they don't speak English, but they do. Okay, so I would be yelling at Mamedov. I might have to learn Russian to yell at him, but I would. Because he pushed all the pawns in front of his king, and they're all on dark squares, right? I can prove it, see? And he got rid of his white squared bishop. And I tell my students, don't do that. He's not my student, so he did that. And you might think, what's wrong with that? Well, you're going to see what's wrong with that. You get checkmated because you can't protect any of those squares. So if he was a good player, any good player in this position would play F4 to F2. Any good player would play that. If Yasser was here, he would nod. Yeah, that's right. But they don't let you do that. Okay, but if he was allowed to do that, that would be the best move. You got to move those pawns back and make your king safe. Okay, but he played bishop b6 to make sure his bishop was off sides. Good for getting checkmated. Queen h5. Bishop to d4. Rook e8. Well, if the rook goes to e2 and the queen goes to f3 or h2, I don't think white's game is so good. Notice how all of white's pieces are on the queen side, and his king is on the king side exposed. Not so good. Also, we're on move 95, and the rook is still on a1. How many of them think it's move 95? Did I fool any of them? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Nah, that's move 25 or so. But rook's on a1, not participating in the game, and Anand is starting to attack the king. Rook f1. Now if you play rook e2, I'll play rook f2. Knight g4, threatening mate. But Mamedyarev's 27-57, so he saw that. So he played queen c2, defending mate, and stopping rook e2. c5, and that's probably the best move of the game. Because now white's queen is overworked and overloaded, and so is the bishop. So some of you may have noticed that knight e3 forks the queen and the rook, right? But then white's going to take it. And the reason knight e3 forks the king and the rook, the queen and the rook, is because white played f4. I said he should move back to f2, but nobody listens. So that weakens the e3 square. Nothing's protecting e3. Well, after c5, if the bishop moves away, we'll play knight e3. If the bishop goes to f2, what do you think, Ken West? Bishop f2 defends e3, right? It does. But now queen h2 mate again. So Mamedyarov said, I guess I'll take that pawn. Rook c8, pinning the knight to the queen. Aw, not nice if you're white. Yeah, that's not so good. So all of white's pieces are pinned and attacked, and queen h2 mate. The queen on c2 is overworked. If only white could play pawns back to f2. Okay. So rook d1, because Mamedyarov's really tricky. He's hoping for lots of captures on c5, and he'll play rook d8 mate at the appropriate moment. Okay? And Anand didn't want to get mated because he wants to be world champion again. Okay? If you don't want to get mated, what do? In this position, your king's on h8, you don't want to get mated. You want to get mated? John? Yeah. h6, yeah. Bishop takes and h6, yeah. I think you could play h6 right away, but yeah, now he won't get mated because there's luft. So now black's threatening, queen takes bishop check, trade queens, and black's up a knight. If he did that earlier, rook d8 mate would have been annoying. King h1. And the idea of king h1 is very sneaky. And some of you would blunder here and lose. Anand didn't blunder and lose because after king h1, Mamedyarov realized that black has 800 winning moves, so he resigned. Okay. However, the most obvious winning move does not win. However, some less obvious moves incredibly win. And when Mamedyarov saw those, he resigned before Anand could move. So for example, knight f2 check is very annoying because white loses all of his pieces. Losing all of your pieces is bad. Because if you take it with the queen, there's queen takes rook check. And then there's queen d5 check. And then you take it with your bishop. Knight e3 also wins immediately. There's no move. However, when he played king h1, he had an idea. Then he resigned. But he had an idea. His idea was, well, okay, if rook takes, rook d8 mate. If queen takes, what does white play? Rook d8 check. And then white's pretty good. Good winning chances. Probably winning. Only legal move. Well, queen f8, I didn't see that. Queen f8 is so bad, I wouldn't call it legal. And then queen takes queen. So that's what Mamedyarov was thinking when he played king h1. And then he's like, oh, wait a minute. All these other moves win immediately. I guess I resign. Okay? And that's the only game black won. And that was like old school Anand. Played fast, attacked his opponent. His opponent weakened his king. And Anand beat him. And those were Anand's only 2 wins in the tournament. But that's enough to be in clear first. Because Most players rated 27, 2800 don't lose a lot. They lose rarely. Now this was a very strange game, and this was played today? Yeah, it's tomorrow in Russia now, but we'll say today. This game was played today, and this is Svidler versus Mamedyarov. Mamedyarov's white. Svidler played the Dutch. Okay, if there's two openings I hate, it's openings that don't like other cultures and the Dutch. Okay, right? You see what I'm saying. Now, the Dutch has been doing well at the top level lately, especially if you're playing Aronian, because Aronian plays like the worst line against it. I hope you're watching this, Levon. Svidler doesn't play the Dutch. Let's see who has a lot of acumen regarding the world top players in this room. What is Svidler known for with black? Raise your hand if you know. Against D4, Svidler's the world's leading authority on one opening. It's not the Dutch. No, there's less acumen than I thought. Nothing? You got nothing for me, Strantz? Nothing? Ugh. I've never been so disappointed. I'm just going to leave because Perrier's in that room. The answer is the Grunfeld. And Svidler plays the Grunfeld a lot. In fact, he played this tournament. Okay? So Svidler plays Grunfeld every game with black and wins every game. And they know he's going to play it, and he still wins. That's pretty good. So he played the Dutch, which they didn't know he was going to play because he doesn't do that. Okay, so the psychological warfare has started. Okay, and they played sort of a mainline Leningrad Dutch, okay, normal stuff. Probably the two best players in the world who play the Dutch a lot are both American, Hikaru Nakamura and Gata Kamsky. And Nakamura plays it more than Kamsky does, but Kamsky plays it occasionally. Okay, the Dutch is a very uncompromising opening. It means I want to win. I don't want to equalize and draw. I want the game to be exciting and you blunder and I win. Svidler has to win because Mamedyarov in this event is one of the weaker players at 27.57 FIDE. So he's like, I got to beat this guy. This guy's no good. And I mean, if you don't win, you're not going to win the tournament. Now, some of you might think, well, wait a minute. Svidler's lucky to get in this tournament. If he comes in third, that would be a great success because he should come in like 7th or 6th. If he comes in second, that would be a great success. Well, actually, there's only one success in this tournament, first. Okay, otherwise, you're not going to be happy. If you come in first, you're going to play Carlson for the World Championship in November. And if you lose that match, which you will, you'll get $1 million. So I recommend winning this tournament. That's my recommendation. If you're watching, win this tournament. Yeah. So Svidler has to win the tournament, so he has to take some risks. If he plays his usual solid self and draws with black and tries to win a game or two with white and gets a fantastic +2 score and comes in second, then he gets second place. But if he starts winning games because he's mixing it up, then he might be the world champion. So you can't try to draw your games. Now, the opposite approach is being taken by Sergei Karyakin. Okay, a very suspicious approach. Karyakin, one of the youngest players in the tournament. He's the same age as Andreikin. They're both 24. They're born a month apart. Look all the prep I did for this lecture. No, I just sort of knew that. And Karyakin draw. I don't think he's going to win the tournament. And somehow, this doesn't work mathematically. By drawing every game, he's in 7th out of 8. He didn't draw every game, he lost one.
He'd be okay if he had 44 games.
Then he'd be fine. So he had 1 loss and 5 draws. He's in 7th out of 8. He's not going to win the tournament. Okay? So drawing all your games, you don't win the tournament. You've got to win the tournament. So Svidler's playing a little unusual. Obviously, he prepared this line. Now, I heard a rumor on the internet, so it's obviously true, that Svidler has 3 seconds with him at this tournament. So Svidler wants to win this tournament because he can become a millionaire in one tournament. Now, winning the World Championship is also good. You probably didn't think so. But when you win the World Championship, then you play for the World Championship again. Another $1 million payday. So potentially, if Svidler wins this tournament, it could be worth millions. Not just 1 million, but you never know. So take some risk to win the tournament's a good idea. And some people believe, we call them smart people, that if you play poker, you should do this. Because if you come 7th in a poker tournament, the guy who came in first got more money than you. And when I say more, I mean a lot more. So if you came in 7th 10 tournaments in a row, the guy who came first once and the other 6 times got more money than you. Okay, in fact, it might even be 100 times. So coming in first is very important in a lot of poker tournaments. And in chess tournaments, it's not, except for this one. If I'm playing in the St. Louis Open and I come in second instead of first, it's $400. This might be $1 million, $2 million. So you better come in first. So Svidler's not kidding around. He's like, I got to win this game. Okay, Queen E8's a popular move now. Black wants to play E5. White plays for a queenside expansion, and black plays E5 because I said so. If he didn't do that, it would have looked silly. And, well, according to the computers, the game was about equal. Both sides did what they were supposed to do. Got their pieces out, castled, gained some space, attacking the pawn on E4. And, you know, the game was pretty reasonable. And at some point in the game, the computer liked black. It said black's doing great because white has 37 isolated pawns, which is the world's record. Okay, black has 1 isolated pawn. So normally, when I see a bishop and a queen on the same diagonal, I like the bishop because when those pieces are traded, it's working out good for the bishop. So black has a good position here. Black's equalized. He got out of Mahmud Yar's preparation, probably for the Grunfeld, and he has good winning chances. And they played, and material was even, or white was a pawn up. B5 was a fantastic move. You can't take with a queen, because after a queen trade, your bishop is hanging. You can't take with a pawn, even Ken West agrees. Pawn takes is very risky with the bishop on E6. So he played queen E3, breaking the pin. He took the pawn. My computer says bishop takes C4 is a big advantage for black. So if you ask me why did he play B takes, I don't know. Not a good move. But okay, still his position's fine. And this is also okay. Yeah, now Svidler went totally crazy. And when they asked him in the press conference, why did you go totally crazy? He says, I went totally crazy. So this position's about equal. Equal material, equal, everybody has the same pieces, a queen, rook, and 2 bishops. And he played a move that makes 0 sense, and and Fabiano Caruana, who almost played in this event, he was on Twitter, he was all at Twitter, and he was like, what is this? What kind of move is this? It's like, this is the worst move I've ever seen. So I don't think he liked this move. And there's no explanation for it. Sometimes when you hang a piece, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. And Ken West disagrees. He says sometimes. Ken, but this move I don't get it. He played H6. Notice how that hangs the G6 pawn, then you get mated. So somebody thought maybe he thought his rook was defending it through his bishop. I don't know about that. So the pawn's defended and he undefended it. Don't do that. Okay? When you're one of the top 10 players in the world playing for the World Championship, don't make one-move blunders. Now, they were making fun of Anand when he was playing Carlsen. What a terrible player, and losing all his games and never wins and all that. These are the best players in the world. They make a move like H6. Anand doesn't do that. So here it's about equal, and at your H6, it's resignable. And I don't know why he played. I don't know why you would allow bishop takes G6 unless you were, a low-rated player and you missed it. Not if you're 2750. And I think he's 7-time Russian champion, not by playing H6. He'd only be 3-time at that if he did that. Right, John? Yeah. Okay, so now white's completely winning. So that was a turnaround. Now, when I give chess lessons to my chess students, I talk a lot about one-move blunders. Most of my students are like, you teach me the Najdorf, and can you show me this endgame that's a draw, but I don't know how to draw it. Can you show me how to mate with bishop and knight? And I'm like, look, I see you guys play, and you hang a piece. Stop doing that. Okay, all that other stuff doesn't matter. Now these guys never blunder, so we're total shock. And he was like, I don't know. Sidler's like, I don't know. So not only did he hang a pawn, now his king's in a lot of trouble. So that wasn't good. Okay, so bishop d5, now he's attacking the bishop. H5, cementing the bishop on g6, just what black wants. And now the queen can't leave c8 because white's going to mate him on the back row. So the queen's stuck on the back row. Queen d7, bishop d4, getting rid of the bishop that's defending the black king. And bishop f7 check is double exclam. He's winning anyway, but this is a beautiful way to win. And the reason it's beautiful isn't because that move is good. The final move of the game is a masterpiece. So Mamedyarov, who's having a bad tournament, looked at his opponent and said, excuse me, I'm having a bad tournament, but look at my rating. I can play good moves too, just not this tournament. And it reminded me, there was an NBA game played 2 days ago, Indiana versus Indiana's opponent. I can't remember their opponent. I think it was Philadelphia. And Paul George was having a bad game, which is unusual. And at the end of the game, he jumped over 20 people and dunked like 10 feet away. And he's like, I had a bad game, but I can still play good. Okay, so while Mamedyarov having a bad tournament, he had a worse position with white, but he's like, I'm Mamedyarov, I can still crush you. Okay, so when we're watching the games live, we make fun of the guys who were in last, who aren't winning any games, as long as we don't play them, then we can make fun of them. When they're here, we're very respectful. But when they're thousands of miles away and can't hear us, we're like, Mamedyarov's no good, and Draken's no good, because those are the guys coming in last. But somebody's got to come in last. Bishop f7 is fantastic. What did black do? There's only one move. Queen f7. Otherwise, white's going to take all your pieces. And now black only has one move. Rook takes queen. And black only has one move. Okay. In this position, while both rooks are hanging and opposite colored bishops and white's a pawn up, this looks like it might be a draw. Like, because usually bishop endings of opposite colors are draws when there's no pawns left. This game went one more move and black resigned. Black didn't get to move anymore. What's that? Rook where? It's funny, on the internet, everybody shouted this move because their engine's running in the background. My computer says this. But obviously, when Mamedyarov played bishop f7, he already saw the final position. This is a move Ken West would not play. I guarantee. Also, I wouldn't play it unless it was this exact position. Then I would play it because I know the answer. I would think in a tournament game I wouldn't find this move. That would be my guess. Too hard. But not only did he find it, he found it a long time ago when he played bishop f7. And it's the only move the computer likes. So all the internet guys saw it because they had their engines running. Well, rook takes pawn on c7. Black has a choice of g3 or e2. Probably that's a draw because black has a nice position. Rook and bishop are good. Pass pawn, attacking. How many passed pawns does white have out of these two? How many of those are passed? Say 0. That's the right answer. Still didn't say 0. Terrible. At the internet, like at home, they're like 0. They're yelling into their TV. Yeah, 0. Well, if that h6 pawn was gone, like disappeared, I can do that. Then it would be 2. Very good. Yeah, he played rook g5. Now, rook takes pawn check is risky because there's a rook there, right? And white's threatening rook takes bishop, and bishop takes rook. So what would black play? What's the obvious move? I'm helping you here. Take the rook, right? Well, he resigned instead, but take the rook. Yeah, now we got a pass pawn over here, and we got a pass pawn over here, and this pawn's hanging, so you probably should go here, right? Yeah. And these pawns aren't so good. The bishop just blocks them. So white actually has 3 passed pawns, A pawn, E pawn, H pawn. I don't think black's king can go to 3 places. So white's king walks up the board and escorts one of the pawns home. Are these 2 pawns going to queen? I don't think so. Yeah, and white just pushes all his pawns. So instead of that, he gave up. And rook g5, I think, was the only winning move. But it gets rid of the g pawn, so now white has a passed h pawn. This is actually very important. The bishop controls the queening square of the h pawn. So that means black should probably stick around there. But I don't know how he's going to stop the e pawn and the a pawn. So Svidler gave up, which was the correct thing to do at this level. At your level, it would not be correct. Okay, you'd probably win if you were black. But that was a beautiful game at the end. In the middle, when Fiddler played h6, everybody was confused. And what's funny about that is, you could say, well, Fiddler's having a bad tournament, so he made a bad move. He wasn't having a bad tournament, he was having a great tournament. On the other hand, Mamad Yarov was getting killed, and now he's having a good tournament. So things are going to turn around for these guys. They're all so good that winning 1 or 2 games in a row, especially 1 in a row, that's a lot. Then they could turn the tournament around. So far, Karyakin and Andreikin have won 0 in a row. So yeah, they got to win more than that.